to join with all of the others today who've thanked and expressed their gratitude to the government of Georgia, the Georgia Parliament, for the hosting of this important conclave, and to express how much support and appreciation we have for the enthusiasm you've brought to this endeavor. And frankly, I can't help but thank you also for the opportunity to meet in this magnificent venue. It's really quite a pleasure. I also want to thank and express my appreciation to the conferees who are here, all of them interested, all of you interested, as am I, and the sponsors, in openness in government, a challenge that every nation, regardless of size, feels and has to confront across the globe. My name is OGP. I was first elected to the United States Congress in 1974, and I'm excited to be here because that class of incoming congressmen in 1974 was a tidal wave of reformers who came to see independently, without any conversations among them, but independently assessed the Congress as an institution of a great democracy that had gotten hardening of the arteries, that it had become less democratic and needed great reform. And with the strength of so many new members that year, it was one of history's largest influxes of new members of Congress, of the House of Representatives. We were brash, we were young, but we did a number of things that changed Congress in very significant ways that I think are relevant to our conversation today, and I'd like to quickly share them with you. You know, after almost 200 years of democracy, the Congress of the United States in Washington was conducting secret ballots, not just voice votes, but secret ballots, where people would not put their voting card in a slot, but they would line up in the back of the room and then put a card in a basket, and then be able to say to their constituents, if they wanted to, I voted for it or I voted against it. It was very convenient for them, but it lacked complete accountability. We stopped that. We introduced open meetings so that the business of the people could be seen by the people and not just by the insiders. We had open debate. When a bill came to the floor of the House of Representatives, any amendment that was germane to the bill at hand could be offered by any member of Congress and debated and voted on. And finally, we had we introduced televised hearings, televised floor sessions, gavel to gavel coverage from the moment the Congress convened until it ended that night. Now, those were very, very significant. Oh, and we also introduced the election of committee chairmen, which previously had been appointed by the most powerful members of Congress and the most senior members of Congress. Those were very important reforms. Now, so you can see, I feel a kinship with the delegates who are here talking about openness today. But I also want to share this with you. A lot of those changes, not all, but many of those changes that I've mentioned have now been undone, which raises a very important point that I'd like to leave you with, and that is often what we succeed in doing is written in sand, and tidal waves will come and wash it away. And so our work can't stop. It can never stop. It must always go forward, because our work is unending if we're trying to really open our country to the kind of representation they need. You just heard a fantastic session on the problems of and opportunities of the internet. And I think that it's important to note that while governments need to get out ahead of where they are, we need to recognize that a lot of governments lack the financial resources to keep up with these developments, and that's something that we need to share information about and ideas about, because it's a difficult matter. But I would say one more thing. In my judgment, and I've watched technology change in America, in my judgment, just passively putting out for the public to view a website that talks about what government has done is not enough. It's a passive thing that depends on action by the public, which may or may not be satisfied with government and may not be interested in government. And if you look around the world today, you see a lot of populations in which the distrust of government and all parties is very, very high. So my point here, just to add to the last discussion, parallels Laura Thornton's of NDI. Parliaments need to be proactive. They can't be faceless. They need to be seen as living, breathing human beings, the members of. And sure, we need to do all of the rest on digital technology and internet and the rest. But if we're faceless, if we're unknown, no amount of high technology with billions of dollars of expenditure is going to humanize us to the point where the public will see us as a part of the community. During this session and throughout the conference, of course, we're going to learn about ongoing projects from various countries. We have here a spokesman from a number of countries talking about projects, special projects that they've done to provide more openness within their states, strategies that they've tried, successes that they've made. I would hope also that you might find time, my panelists might find time to discuss where the hardships were to achieve those successes, what difficulties had to be overcome to achieve them, because that will help, I think, people learn who may not be as far advanced as your nations are. So we have a time crunch. It's 10 after 1, 13:10, and we probably need to end this by 2 o'clock, and here I am as a congressman filibustering too long already. Apologize for that. But I'm going to ask my panelists to try to keep the remarks within 5 minutes if possible, 3 to 5 minutes, probably 5. And then the questions that might come from the audience, if you'd be succinct, be to the point, so we can get in as many questions as we can within the time that we have to work with. I once chaired the House of Representatives when it was particularly raucous, and I was in the chair. I had the gavel, trying to keep them in order. And at one point, I hit the gavel so hard that I broke it, and the head of the gavel, with a sharp point, went flying out into the House floor. The members of Congress were ducking, afraid they were going to be maimed. I want to assure you, I didn't bring a gavel today. So, without further ado, let me recognize our distinguished panel. First, I want to recognize the Honorable Vydas Gedvilas, the First Deputy Speaker of Lithuania. Sir?
Good afternoon. I thank the moderator, and I'm really extremely delighted to see all of you representing so many countries. I represent the Parliament of the Republic of Lithuania. It is the first time that I participated in this forum, and I really am glad to see so many politicians, public representatives, people who are looking forward to more openness, more collaboration. I thank the Georgian hosts, its parliament, its government, for organizing an event of this format. Lithuania and Georgia has always been two friendly nations. It's a bit symbolic that yesterday, upon our arrival to Georgia, there was a basketball match between Lithuania and Georgia. We were sitting together with our Georgian colleagues at the table. And I would not tell you what was the end of this match, but we separated in a friendly manner, which shows that nations can cooperate in any context. We are a young country, 25 years after establishment of our independence. We have some experience, however, and let me briefly share that experience with you. I will be reading my text, but if you have any questions later on, I will be glad to answer them. In Lithuania and in other European countries, the parliament is one of the most open institutions. In my presentation, I will introduce to you the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania as an institution open to the public, look into the relations between the Seimas and the public, present the newest initiatives in this field and our activity results. I will also spend some time introducing to you the project e-Seimas, aimed at developing electronic democracy tools. The Communications Department of the Office of the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania is one of the key units engaged in organizing and coordinating the Seimas public relations. The activities of the department rest on the principles of the openness of the Seimas as a legislative institution, its regard to citizens' needs, focus on the traditions of democracy and parliamentarism, fostering of the public spirit and national self-awareness. Let me introduce some statistics. Last year, the Seimas received as many as 190 public representatives, arranged 19 meetings with the members of the board of the Seimas, and 78 meetings with chairs of the parliamentary committees and commissions. The members of the Seimas met with the participants of 22 meetings rallies held near the Seimas buildings, who presented their proposals on the use of the Lithuanian language in the spelling of personal names, sales of land to foreign nationals, and other matters. We gave responses to 2,335 people. Approximately 6,000 press releases came to light and were disseminated. More than 80 exhibitions and 40 various presentations were held in the Seimas. Back in 2014, special internet websites dedicated to the parliamentary dimension of the Lithuanian presidency of the Council of the European Union and the spring session of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, which was held in the Seimas of the Republic of Lithuania, were launched. The European Information Office, a unit that can be attributed to the most open units of the Office of the Seimas, is quite active. As many as 18,261 people visited the European Information Office during guided tours or as individual visitors in 2014. In an attempt to strengthen the interaction of the Seimas and the public, and the participation of the public in the processes of preparation and adoption of important decisions with the help of information and communication technologies, the project e-Seimas is implemented in Lithuania. The implementation of the project was finished in June this year, with the majority of project activities financed from the European structural funds. Electronic services developed by the Office of the Seimas enable citizens to be more actively involved in state government processes. The new tools not only enable to better inform the Lithuanian people about the activities of the Parliament and the results achieved, but also provide a possibility to give a more adequate assessment of the public opinion when the decisions of the Parliament, state and municipal institutions are being considered and adopted, and have a better understanding of the parliamentary work and complex governance of the state. It is namely thanks to these tools that the public voice can now be heard in all the stages of legislation process. People can not only directly follow the activities of the Seimas online, but also voice their opinion on the matters relevant to society and comment politicians' decisions. By using electronic tools, citizens have the possibility to present their legislative initiatives, petitions, proposals, complaints, statements, and follow the proceedings of the examination. Based on the provisions of the law on legislative framework of the Republic of Lithuania, the register of the legislation has been largely rearranged and modernized. All the registered and publicized legal acts, international treaties, and rulings of the courts are currently fully accessible to the public, free of charge, 24 hours per day. The modernized website of the Seimas gives an opportunity to its visitors to search for and find a legal act or its draft much easier and faster. Internet pages intended for different target groups have been launched based on special interests and needs, which encourage children, adolescents, and elder people to learn more about the Seimas, its activities. They teach to use the results of the legislation adopted and provide useful information. It is important to note that people can watch live broadcasts of the sittings of the Seimas, press conferences, and most events held in the Parliament online. Even though many experts suggest that the closer the institution, the higher people's trust in it, I nevertheless believe that even though the prevalence of the openness factor increases people's distrust, it nonetheless helps to ensure more transparency in this institution. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll now hear from the Honorable Dubravka, Filipovski, I'm sorry, of Serbia. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Dubravka Filipovski, Member of Parliament of Serbia. Thank you for the invitation and congratulations on the good organization of the conference. In my presentation, I wish convey to you the results of the Serbian Parliament in the control of executive branch and the opening of government data. It's a problem. Please, Scott. In the duration of the project, strengthening of the oversight rule of the and transparency of the Parliament implemented in cooperation with UNDP and Swiss Agency for Development from 2011 to 2015, the Serbian Parliament achieved two major results. Firstly, Parliament's oversight rule of the executive power faculty improved. Firstly, conditions were created for the opening of government data with the portal for tracking the public budget expenditures. Besides the aforementioned. The control role of the Serbian parliament has been continually implemented through following institutions. The first, members of parliament are initiated to ask government questions twice a week, every Thursday and Tuesday, in accordance with the rules of procedures of the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia. On top of this, the members of the government are obligated to personally answer the MP's questions of the last Thursday of the month. During the period of 3 years, 3/4 public hearings have been held regarding very wide range of topics such as prevention on the violence against women, subcrime, improving of the production and export of the raspberries, to name just a few of them. One-line system which enables citizens to refer petition regarding public hearings topics has been also established web page. 11 mobile parliamentary committee sessions took place during the period 2030 and 2040. Some of the results are payment of over-there subsidies for farmers, resolving problems concerning the agricultural land. Finally, live streaming of the parliament session has motivated citizens to take more active part in solving their own problems. The National Assembly website features easy access to exposures to every single MP of current communication, as well as to daily and weekly reports covering plenary and committee sessions. The site also features international and external bulletins, quorum, and bulletin aimed to outreach to citizens and media. The Parliamentary's website will also feature two-way communication with citizens for public hearings, submissions, and portal reports and public expenditures. Another joint attempt at public participation and constituency work was the national TV debate featuring MPs from particular regions speaking on regional topics in a mobile studio. Several important and very active informal cross-party caucuses have been founded in the Serbian parliament. Women's Parliamentary Network, National Branch of GOPAC, Economic Caucuses, the Green Group, Energy Police Forums, and then last week in Parliament, Group for Open Parliament. The most important achievements of Women's Parliamentary Network and GOPAC in Serbia are: Serbia, along with Great Britain, became the only European country in which sexual assault does not become offside as a result of Women's Parliamentary Network's initiative to amend the criminal code. Secondly, this year in March, Women's Parliamentary Network of Serbia initiated the networking of female MPs from 11 countries of Southeast Europe with the goal of putting the joint effort in amending laws regarding gender equality. National Branch of GOPAC Serbia, together with Parliamentary Committee for the Control of Public Finances, initiated the formation of working group for creating the portal for the oversight of the public finances. This portal will allow MPs and other specialized parliamentary structures the monitoring of all the incomes and expenditures in the state budget on the daily basis. GOPAC Serbia initiated regional cooperation in fighting against corruption and also helped establishing national branch of GOPAC in other countries of the region. Activities and results of Women's Parliamentary Network and GOPAC Serbia can be followed at blogs of these two informal groups, ZPM Serbia WordPress and GOPAC Serbia WordPress on Serbian and English languages. The public opinion poll by UNDP showed significant increase of positive perception of citizens regarding the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia to 30% in year 2030, compared the modest 18% in year 2008. The report can be found on the web page of the Serbian Parliament. I expect new study by the end of this year. And finally, what else should be done? The citizens are to be additionally informed about possibilities of their more intensive participation in the parliamentary activities. It is necessary to provide an access to all submitted amendments within the electronic parliament system and also to establish a module for submitting commentaries on draft laws. Effective use of the portal for the oversight of public finances. Local authorities should implement of the positive experience in their work on overall activities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from the representative from the Croatian Parliament, the Honorable Karolina Leaković.
Yeah. Thank you.
Try pronouncing my name.
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, dear friends and colleagues. Thank you for having me here, and I appreciate being able to address you briefly. Due to the time restriction, I did not prepare a PowerPoint presentation. If I remember well, there is a particular party in Switzerland called the Anti-PowerPoint Party. So if I were a Swiss citizen, I would probably join that particular party. Coming from the Social Democratic Party of Croatia, I'm a member of parliament in my second term, and I was very inspired by Laura's remarks this morning about the need for politicians and parliamentarians to go out and talk to our constituency and to our citizens. And that is precisely what our Deputy Speaker, Nena Stazic, a colleague of mine from Parliament, and I will be doing in the next couple of months, since we are heading towards the parliamentary elections. So, of course, we have to be digitally connected with our constituency, but starting from this Wednesday and in next couple of months, we are definitely going to walk around and walk and talk, as you have mentioned last. So I participated in the first working group meeting in Montenegro some time ago, and I'm happy to also share some important initiatives and some important improvements that have happened in between this and that previous conference in Croatia, and that have to do with especially establishing platforms for citizens' participation in policy-making consultations. But just before I go into that is going to be kind of the focus of my short remark here, or short contribution. Let me just inform you that in last couple of years, in last 4 years during this term of the Croatian Parliament, the Parliament itself has been in session for more than 400 days and debating more than 1,500 issues with around 780 enacted laws. And when it comes to this legislation process, which is very dynamic, as you can see, since we have been members of the European Union for 2 years now, and there's a lot of legislation that has to be improved all the time. We believe that this process, of course, as we have already heard, has to be open, transparent, and as interactive as possible. And it has to do with a lot of changes we have to introduce in the existing procedures of our parliaments in Croatia as well. So we are interested in also hearing not only what the civil society representatives have to say, but also what the ordinary citizens have to say, and experts as well. And so one of the most interesting and most efficient tool for enhancing this process in Croatia has been the open e-consultation process that has been radically improved this year with e-consultation platform that was open in April 2015. So it has been a real step forward in this regard. Just to share a couple of data with you. So Croatian government in 2011 held only 48 public consultations on the laws, compared to 544 last year. So the increase of participants in these consultations is incredible. It's 4,000%. More people took the opportunity to raise their concerns and to comment on the draft laws and to participate in the policy-making process and to propose changes. So every law that is enacted in the Croatian parliament has to be kind of put in the public sphere, has to be also be available to citizens, and they can, of course, participate in the public consultations that last from 2 weeks to a month, and they can influence the changes of that law. Up until enacting this e-consultation platform, until April 2015, e-consultations were held as well, but via websites of each ministry or public body, which was a very complex process, and it was not always a transparent one, I must say. But now I think that we have been able to bring policy making and lawmaking closer to citizens, and their involvement also serves as a kind of a proof to that. It's a new dynamic, of course, that is in place, and it's not only about numbers, it's also about expectations of those who are willing to participate in this process. And I think that we have seen that a variety of interest groups also, they're showing a growing interest in discussing draft policies, and they also expect a lot more feedback from the policy making and legislative bodies. And they would like to know why some of their proposals are not accepted, and they are willing to be very pushy on these issues. So we are seeing that they are much more interested, and now they have the platform for raising their concerns, but we see also that they have high expectations from the legislators and policy-making bodies. And that brings me actually to my final remark, and I have put it in a formula way. It's called 3E through P. It means education through participation, emancipation through participation, and empowering of citizens through participation in this policy-making and law-making process. And I think these 3 E's that I have mentioned are closely connected with the need for re-establishing trust in parliaments, in parliamentary liberal democracy that we have been talking about this morning, and in the mechanisms that have been challenged in Europe in the last couple of years. And we, of course, see that we are about to change the way that we deal with politics. I believe that citizens are interested in politics. I mean, they are political. We are all political, but it seems that being only able to participate in the elections every 4 years is not enough. So I argue that it is also our interest and our obligation to find ways to constantly interact with our citizens, so to also give them the opportunity to make changes between these four-year terms. I would say that the parliaments need to reinvent their full potential as representative and lawmaking democratic bodies. And I believe that these in-consultations that we are now having in Croatia can serve as one of the ways, of course, for citizens to effectuate their political rights. Thank you very much.
Now for a report from the Ukraine, I recognize the Honorable Dmytro Lubinets.
Hello, dear colleagues. I have a very big speech, but I promise will be shorter. So, first of all, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to this event in Dubravka. So, I'm from Ukraine. I'm a deputy of Verkhovna Rada, and I'm elected in the majority district in the Donetsk region. And now the part of my district is occupied by Russian troops. So now we have a very hard time in Ukraine, and we have two wars. One war against the Russian Federation and another war against all corruption system inside Ukraine. So signing by the Ukraine an association agreement with the European Union was a historical event that requires great responsibility from our country and provides great opportunities for the development of a society and the country. This requires immediately implementation of the principles of open government, accountability of government to the public, to report and to be controlled by the citizens. Implementation of these commitments undertaken by Ukraine have journeyed to the implementation of international partnership initiative Open Government. So what about results? According to the experts, the LOWG action plan for 2015-2014 years has completely only 15%. 39% are in the process of implementation and 46% has not been completed. Commitments have been taken in the following areas: access to public information, public influence on the formation and implementation of public policy, effective anti-corruption. Such a conclusion was made by the participants during the discussion of the implementation of the action plan at the round table Partnership Open Government in Ukraine reporting held in June 2015. On August 28, our President Petr Poroshenko issued a decree on the order of consideration of electronic petition addressed to the President of Ukraine, which allowed the Ukrainians to address to him with electronic petition. And now everyone, citizens in Ukraine, have the opportunity to register on website of President of Ukraine the petition, and President have to consider and sign in this petition. If 25,000 our citizens will sign it until 3 months. Now, what's about Verkhovna Rada? I want to say that usually Verkhovna Rada have 450 deputies, but now part of our country is occupied and we have only 421 deputies. Of course, the composition of the parliament reflected the existing in society sentiments. Now the big part of parliament is pro-Ukrainian, pro-European, patriotic, and we have majority in the parliament. It made possible to confront effectively military aggression of Russia promptly and take the necessary designs for their country. During work, Verkhovna Rada was adopted a large number of revolutionary laws for the Ukrainian. We started process of constitutional changes concerning the removal of parliamentary immunity and decentralization of governments like functions the European system of certain governments and local governments. These were made steps to ensure the transparent operation of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Our parliamentary speaker, Volodymyr Groysman, signed a decree according to which deputies make public declaration of income and monthly update lists of his assistants. All this information is published on the website of the Verkhovna Rada and on internet sites of the deputies. In addition, we have made transparent the work of parliamentary committees. The records and transcripts of each session of the Verkhovna Rada uploaded on the website of the parliament, with time frame of 5 days after the meetings, adopted by the committee acts within 3 working days from the date of signing. A schedule of meetings of the committee shall be made to public for 2 weeks in advance. Verkhovna Rada now the locomotive of system reforms that responds to domestic and international obligation of Ukraine, the factory of reforms law instead of printing unless amendments to law influence as it was before. We have a lot of problems, and these problems because a lot of my colleague is not ready to change himself. And in the meantime, we have resisted the old system which existed for years. Not only deputies, members of staff of Verkhovna Rada, our staff government are not ready to change. Even the walls are breathing with Soviet spirit, and it's not easy to resist it. An important step is the elaboration and adoption of the system document, the plan to ensure legislative reforms that summarized a number of legislative and strategical documents regulating the activities of the state and society. All of us, society, government agencies, and local communities survived a very difficult and tense period from the occupation of the Crimea until nowadays. Not only survived, but now also organized ourselves, have established work, overcome many threats and challenges. Now our key task is to enhance the institutional reforms to ensure that the process is irreversible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd finally like to recognize Guguli, Magradze, the Member of Parliament, Chair of the Inter-Factional Group on Open Parliament of the Parliament of Georgia.
Thank you.
Welcome you, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, as the host, as the representative of the Parliament, I would like to welcome each parliamentarian who visited us from different countries. I would like to greet also representatives of Georgian and international NGOs, representatives of diplomatic corps. I would like to extend my gratitude to you for visiting us, and we will do our best to be good hosts. I represent and I'm chairman of Interactive Group, and I want to extend my special gratitude to Mr. David, because without his real support we would never have such effective achievements. And besides, I would like to extend my gratitude to Information Freedom Institute, who organized our work, and I of USA, and to all international, foreign and Georgian NGOs who were engaged in development of action plan with that. And also I want to say a special thanks to MPs and representatives of the departments of the Parliament. Without active participation of them, we would never achieve success and elaborate such an effective action plan. And I do believe that all these stakeholders will be similarly active in implementation of this plan. I want to extend my gratitude to Mrs. Tinatin Hidasheli and Babat. Of course, the idea can be very nice and very good, but if this idea is not supported, implemented by a very active and enthusiastic person, then these ideas could not never be in practice.
And I would like to wish her in her new position. Government of Georgia from the very beginning, from the very first days, is involved in the open governance programs, and you have already listened about the achievements and successes Georgia government has achieved. As for the Parliament of Georgia, in February we founded the Inter-Factional group, and one representative from each faction participated, irrespective of how large the faction was. So one representative from each faction participated in this. And as a result of 6 months' work, on July the 17th, the Bureau of Parliament has approved the action plan of open governance, rather ambitious plan. And my task is a bit simplified, because you have this action plan and in your handouts, and it comprises 18 items of commitments of Georgia: involvement, accountability, transparency, openness, etc., to increase all these notions. After all the presentations we have listened to, I was quite surprised that, surprised to find out that we have already achieved certain level of openness in the Parliament of Georgia, but of course we understand it's not sufficient, and this is why we have come together to improve the existing situations. But we need to adapt to the new technologies which open more and more and newer opportunities to us. So we need somehow to achieve our utmost goal, which is the close involvement of the public. We have talked about the online and the TV broadcasting, online communication. So all the plenary sessions, committee sessions, all the parliamentary internal meetings that are broadcasted both by TV. And it has been mentioned here that, of course, one cannot listen to the plenary session, for example, during all the day. But these new technologies enable us to wind back and to listen to the sections which one person is particularly interested in. Once we are talking about involvement, of course, we understand that this is not just opportunity to listen to something and to listen to something, to view something. So we are talking about the active involvement, active participation of each and every citizen. This is part of our ambitious plan. So we need definitely to fully apply the opportunities, to motivate all these citizens, regardless of their location, whether they're rural tenants, they live in rural areas or urban places. So this can and should be done with the website of the Parliament. We should enable the citizens to have access to the information, to be actively involved, to send their own comments and send their feedback, and to view whether their comments, respective comments, had been utilized in the parliamentary decisions, draft laws, etc. Also, it enables us to keep the hand on the pulse of the citizens, to find out and to know more about out their needs and their requirements, and to find out whether this or that particular bill and draft law is needed by the public of Georgia. So that, in a nutshell, so we need all these opportunities enable us to ensure the real, actual involvement of the public in all these processes, so that, of course, it is within the commitments of Georgia. I would also like to emphasize one of the innovations. This is contact with NGOs. We've always, Parliament of Georgia has always had relationships and links with NGOs, but this was rather sporadic, for example, contact of one particular MP with NGOs or one particular committee. Now we have systemized these links and communication and relationships. They have become more systemic and systematic. And it is very necessary so that there is systematic sharing of the information, us sharing the information to NGOs, and also systematically getting their feedback and comments, which should be reflected in our legislative activities. Also, we have formalized, according to our action plan, we have formalized the schedule and system of our meetings with the public hearings, because again it was rather sporadic. Now we have taken certain obligations and commitments about how frequent these meetings should be, what should be the nature and the format of these meetings. So this is another commitment of our government according to our action plan. Another important thing is that we have reflected in our action plan some compulsory development of ethical norms, ethical issues of MPs. And we think that this should be really compulsory. And this action plan, which has been already started to be implemented, and in October of 2015, we need to report to the public of Georgia which commitments we have fulfilled, which we have not, but I very much hope that there will be not fulfilled commitments. And this involvement of public, as one of the president of U.S. during the inauguration, he has said that whatever good programs the government has, unless there is the support of the public and the involvement of the public, none of these wonderful programs can be implemented. Therefore, this program of the open governance enable us to improve and put our legislative activities on the higher level. So it will enable us to provide this information about our activities to the public, and also it will enable us to know about the insights and opinions of the public, because it will enable us to better conduct our legislative activities. So we have lots of guests here from various countries, so maybe not everybody is aware of the fact that we have very tense, very large tension between the opposition and ruling party, because the previous ruling party, which is now in opposition, they were in the government, they were ruling party during the previous 8 years, so they are now in opposition, and there is a very large tension. But despite the fact, we have managed that, and managed that very different, various, and a bit opposed political parties, political forces have come together in order to jointly solve these issues. And I think that it very well reflects this political culture which is established in our parliament. So we jointly worked on our action plan, and it demonstrates that all various political forces, they are all eager and striving towards higher transparency, higher openness, and I'm sure that it demonstrates the fact that our country follows the democratic path in an irrespective way.
In the interest of time, I think I will recognize questions from the audience. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Truly one general question to all of the speakers who would be eager to have. First of all, I think In reality, there's a one commonness. Every parliament has its website. They put in some information, a bit more, a bit less. Something could be improved in one side. But the question is how to encourage that the public would be really engaging on the providing its comments and information. I believe that websites exist. I believe that internet penetration in many countries is high. I believe that a lot of people on the Facebook or on the Twitter or on the emails, on the many things. I believe that there are interest groups who are really monitoring and following. But one thing, whenever we're talking about common citizens, specifically from the rural areas, which has been mentioned by the last speaker, I understand that when I have a recorded video for 4 hours, I can use the button down and find some places, but I need to spend some time. Whenever, if I have a search engine, I can just click the name and it will get me there directly. It's improving my quality work. Now, I can put the draft law on website, keep it for 1 month, have 1 or 2 feedback, and then officially, in all places, government can report that it has been open, it has been available, and there was even 2 comments, which meaning the public. Is it the level of public participation that we're talking?
Is that your question?
This is my question. Is it the level of public participation or are we searching something else?
I understand the question. Who would you like to respond to that?
You have raised the question of digital divide, actually, which is very important in our society. Internet penetration in Croatia is quite high, but it's not. I mean, internet is not free, so not everyone can actually have the access to internet because you have to pay for that. And it's true. This is not the only way, as I have already said. I'm not a technological optimist in that sense. I think that we need to invent many more ways to involve citizens. And I think this is just one of the ways. I totally agree with you. If we have the consultation and we had only 2 comments, what does it say about the way that our citizens are involved in policy-making process? So I think we have to, of course, think on the level of structure of the society. And I think that our colleagues from Finland can be really inspiring in that sense, because as far as I understand, they have also put the access to internet as a constitutional right. So it's in the constitution, and I guess it's free then, and it's accessible to everyone. So without this digital division and without the sense of politicians in that regard, we are not going to accomplish what you have been talking about, and that's really participation of people.
My colleague from Lithuania.
Thank you. I would like to share the Lithuanian experience. We don't have any problem in Lithuania because every resident in Lithuania have an access to the internet. There is free internet in the libraries, at schools, many other public places. The important point is that when we have hearings in the parliament, trade unions representing various interest groups may participate in the sittings of the parliament. Each citizen has the right to participate in the process, and many people do use this opportunity, so we don't have this problem in our country, I would say.
My colleague from Georgia.
First of all, I have no illusions that all members of our population just begin tomorrow to find something, what happened in parliament and so on. But step by step, I think we will reach this. Here is free internet, here is PR activity, because media may play a very significant role. Generally, in our country, media began to talk about some legislation, and after this, people are more interesting. Besides, we have special interest group, business group, or other organization who constantly are working with our web site and send their remarks and their approach. But I think that we need to meet with people, we parliamentarians, to explain them that we have such kind of program. That's why we planned some meeting with population. After this, the interest may be increased. And of course, there will be such part of population who never is interested in what happened in parliament. But about Georgia, I cannot say, because our population are very politicized, and they all, you know, when Laura was talking about the open access to the parliament, according to our situation, it's impossible, because the next day we will receive about 1,000 people who won't enter the parliament and talk with each parliamentarian. So every country has his own specific, but I think that our work, PR activity, media, and free access, free internet access, and also good format for access, we also put it in our action plan. It's step by step, because, just now we have often declaration about our property. And many people are interested what kind of income we as a parliamentarian or the member of government we have. Almost maybe such people who are not interested in legislation, but they are interested how we spend our money or so on. So I think that it's great program. And I also will notice that just now we prepare the conception how our group will be work in next parliament, and it will be constantly working inter-fraction group for implementation of this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the panel for their presentations, and I hope we've offered ideas that will be useful to the members of the Assembly, and there will be plenty of time is out now, plenty of time in our social events to converse with each other and follow up questions. Thank you very much, and join me in congratulating our panel.
Thank you very much. This is the most awaited lunchtime. The lunch area is on the ground floor of this building. You can use stairs, go down, or elevator, which is located on the left side when you leave this the hall. Thank you.